Arsenal take on Liverpool on Sunday in the FA Cup third round. Who have you got to progress to the next round of the competition? Hey guys, I'm back to the channel and welcome to another video. Yes, Arsenal take on Liverpool in arguably the biggest game of this round of fixtures to come up in the FA Cup third round draw this weekend. It's an all Premier League clash. It is obviously my team of Liverpool travelling away to the Emirates Stadium in London to take on Arsenal. Very much looking forward to it. Obviously, in the follow-up to the last video that I did about the FA Cup and about talking about how the FA Cup should have a seeded system and everything, I said I was more interested and intrigued in Sunderland versus Newcastle. And yes, to an extent, I am. But of course, with this being the game or the main event of this FA Cup weekend, should I say, obviously I wasn't going to just let this lie without giving my input into the conversation about who I think progresses, who I think goes through to the next round, who I think wins this overall game of football, because I think there's more to this game than maybe just meets the eye of being a general FA Cup fixture. I think there is possibly more to it, and I think that there could be more to it later on down the line, of course. Before we go any further and talking about this game, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always very greatly appreciated. And of course, for you lot to get involved in the comment section as well. I'm sure all of your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, not just about this game, but maybe about the FA Cup in general, will make for great and interesting reading as well. Who do you see having a good FA Cup? Who do you see having a good or bad FA Cup run? Who do you see maybe winning the FA Cup at the end of it? Who do you see winning this particular game? All of that good stuff, I'm sure, will make for great and interesting reading down below. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Arsenal versus Liverpool. Like I say, it's a shame this is not a more... It's a very competitive fixture. It's a very intriguing fixture, but it's a shame it's not a more David versus Goliath encounter. That's obviously what the FA Cup has been built upon. I've obviously gave my input into that particular conversation in the previous video, so if you haven't already, do go out and check that one, which I talked about the FA Cup and the potential of maybe a seeded system maybe coming into play later on down the line in this competition and in this tournament. I would love to see that, but obviously, for the here and now, here we are with Arsenal taking on Liverpool in the third round of the competition. And it does guarantee that one big favourite, one big team is going to be crashing out of the competition at the very first hurdle for these Premier League big boys. So we shall see who that may be. It's a massive game. It's a massive, massive game. And there's a lot riding on it as well than your typical FA Cup game. I think more so for Arsenal than Liverpool. I think Liverpool, obviously, will have maybe one eye on the Carabao Cup semi-final as well. That's coming up next week. They've also got one eye on maybe the Premier League to come. They're obviously going to be missing a couple of key players who are off on international duty in the forms of Endo and Mohamed Salah, of course, for the Reds. And of course, they're sitting pretty at the top of the table, and after overcoming Arsenal, and Arsenal being top on Christmas, but then falling fourth between then and the New Year footballing calendar. So there's a lot riding on it for both of these sides. I think more so for Arsenal than Liverpool. I think there is more pressure on Arsenal because I think Arsenal are being pressured this season into winning a trophy. And I think a lot of people are not really considering them to be favourites to win the Champions League. I think after recent performances in the Premier League, there is some doubt over whether or not they can actually win the Premier League itself. So it kind of leaves the FA Cup their somewhat last resort. Obviously, the Premier League isn't over yet, and of course I don't think they are considered out of the title race or anything along those lines, so I think they're fine in that respect. But in saying all of that, I do think it's unlikely that Arsenal will go on to win the Champions League and then ultimately the Premier League. I didn't back them to win it. I backed them to finish second in the Premier League at the beginning of the season. Don't think they'll win it. I still think Manchester City are the favourites for that. We're going to see obviously how City do in terms of the Premier League going forward, and obviously if Arsenal can handle the expectation and obviously development, and obviously how they bounce back from a couple of bad results in recent weeks. So there's a lot more riding on it for Arsenal than I think there is for Liverpool, because like I say, I see this being Arsenal's last resort for a trophy this season, in my personal opinion. And for Liverpool as well, You know, I say that there's not a lot riding on it. There is obviously still a lot riding on it. You're Liverpool Football Club at the end of the day. You're expected to go out there and put on a show, put on a performance, and obviously do the best that you can in these types of scenarios. It's not the ideal draw for either of these two sides. I'm sure these two sides, particularly given the kind of fast and furious nature of this particular time of the season where the games are coming thick and fast, they would have preferred an easier tie in which maybe they could have rested some of their players. Maybe they still will. I expect Liverpool to go on and rest Alisson, for example. I expect Kelleher to be the cup goalkeeper. I would expect Liverpool to rotate. I expect McAllister to get a few more minutes under his belt since returning from injury. I expect Jota to start, and we know how good Jota can be against Arsenal, so that's at least a positive for Liverpool. I'd expect Harvey Elliott and Gravenberch to maybe be a part of things. It's going to be interesting to see who Jurgen Klopp puts in that right wing position, obviously in the absence of Mohamed Salah. You know, maybe Van Dijk does start alongside Kwanzaa. Maybe it's going to be Konate and Kwanzaa. It's going to be an interesting centre-back pairing. Does Trent Alexander-Arnold play in this game? There are a lot of question marks in terms of team selection for Jurgen Klopp and how he's going to balance things and how he's going to work things. Remember, he does have that first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final on the horizon after this game as well. So that's going to be interesting to note as far as what Liverpool are concerned as well. But for Arsenal, you know, you look at their squad depth, and it may not be as amazing and as spectacular as what many people have maybe made out. It's still strong, it's still solid enough, but is it going to be enough to topple this Liverpool side? It's going to be interesting to see how they go. Do they rest some of their key players, or do they really go for it? In my opinion, they have to go for it. Like I say, I think the FA Cup represents a last resort for them. None of this bigger fish to fry elsewhere sort of thing. I think with the way that obviously the past few results have gone for them, drawing to Liverpool, remember it wasn't long before these two teams were playing each other in the Premier League, of course. They drew to Liverpool. They've since gone on to lose to the likes of West Ham and Fulham, of course, in recent games. And now they're coming into this FA Cup game against an informed Liverpool, against a Liverpool that are starting to find their feet, particularly in an attacking sense. And it's going to be very interesting to see how both of these sides line up, how both of these sides take to the game. And I'm very much intrigued by this fixture in terms of how both sides will approach it. And I go back to my original point at the beginning of the video. I say that this game may have more of an edge to it than you think. This game may have more riding on it than just your typical FA Cup game in which the winner goes on to the next round, the loser crashes out. Like I say, I think there is a lot more pressure on Arsenal than there is Liverpool. But that isn't to say that this game might not work in Liverpool's favour should obviously they win. I think this could be a very good opportunity for Liverpool to get another one over on Arsenal and to maybe hit another nail in maybe Arsenal's particular season coffin, I guess. Past few results have seen a lot of Arsenal fans really turn on the club, really turn on the manager, and sort of somewhat lose their heads a little bit in terms of poor performances, bad results, results that I've obviously seen Arsenal slip from the top of the table right the way to fourth. I think Liverpool winning this game not only knocks Arsenal out of the FA Cup, not only, I think, extinguishes all of Arsenal's hopes of winning any piece of silverware this season, in my personal opinion. I think it could send Arsenal fans into a bit of chaos. Do I expect it to happen? It's really a toss of a coin. And I wouldn't be surprised whichever way this goes. But I think knocking them out of this competition, giving them another defeat, giving them another, in my opinion, and what I think many fans will probably say is going to be another trophyless season. I don't want to speak too soon, but that's just my personal opinion. Another trophyless season for the Gunners. I think it could send the Arsenal fan base into a bit of chaos. And I think Liverpool could thrive upon that. And I think it could also send some of the Arsenal players into a bit of turmoil. I think it could send the Arsenal manager into a bit of frustration. And I think that long term, it could really benefit Liverpool. And I think it could have a knock-on effect on this. And again, it's not long before these two teams play each other again in the Premier League. Another massive and monumental game there, in which obviously that could really set alight one team's run-in for the title and obviously diminish the other one's season as being a battle for the top four, maybe. Like, that's how much things can change in the Premier League. But in terms of obviously this FA Cup game, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, and it's going to be interesting to see if there is going to be a knock-on effect mentally, psychologically, however you want to put it, in terms of obviously these two sides playing each other later on down the line, these two teams going on to capture trophies at the end of the season, and these two sides obviously going on to finish the Premier League season. It's going to be a very interesting battle. I'm intrigued to see how these two teams set up. Like I say, for Liverpool, I think they're going to use this as an opportunity to rotate. I think they're going to put in Kelleher, for example. I think one of Van Dijk and Konate will start. The other one will be Kwanzaa. I'm pretty sure Kwanzaa will be in this game. Trent Alexander-Arnold starting at right back is going to be interesting. The left back situation is going to be interesting as well. We've got no recognised left backs at a senior level. Both Robertson and Tsimikas still injured, of course. So it's going to be interesting to see who starts at left back. In the midfield, you could play Harvey Elliott, you can play Curtis Jones, Gravenberch, and McAllister, obviously wanting to get minutes under his belt to return to full fitness from his injury. And then up front, I would expect Jota to start. Do you go with Núñez to try and improve on his confidence? Do you go with Cody Gakpo, of course, who obviously is seen as a backup player right now? It's going to be interesting to see how certain positions, especially that right wing position, that left back position for Liverpool will obviously play out, and who is going to fit in those positions. And as for Arsenal as well, it's going to be about who do they play. You would expect Ramsdale to be in goal, the quote-unquote cup goalkeeper, of course. And then beyond that point, do they rotate? Do they go for it? Do they go full throttle for it? It's going to be a very intriguing game that these two sides play, and it's going to be very interesting to see if these two sides are going to take it fully seriously because of obviously the nature of the competition and obviously who they've got facing each other this week, or as they are facing each other this week, should I say, and whether or not these two sides are just going to use it as an opportunity to maybe rest some of their key players. Like I say, Liverpool maybe more so because of what they've got on the horizon in response to Arsenal, of course, who don't have Carabao Cup action, Champions League not till February, and of course that's looking unlikely for them to win it, and of course the Premier League being how the Premier League has been for them these past couple of weeks. It's going to be a very intriguing tactical battle, this, and it's going to be very interesting to see how both managers and both teams approach it, and I'm very much interested to see how this game will go about on Sunday. I'm expecting an open game. I'm expecting an end-to-end sort of game, similarly to what we sort of somewhat experienced a few weeks ago when these two teams met in the Premier League. I'm somewhat expecting something along them lines. I'm expecting Arsenal to be a bit more authoritative, though, being at home, a bit more on the ball more, and a bit more attacking-minded, shall we say, than what they were a few weeks ago. It seemed at certain points during the game that they faced a few weeks ago, Arsenal was somewhat happy to take the point, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything bad with that. I'm just saying that it did seem that way at times during the Premier League game that these two teams played a few weeks ago. And as for Liverpool, I'd expect them to attempt to hit Arsenal on the counter-attack because it seemed to work really well last time. The only difference is obviously there'll be no Mohamed Salah on that right wing for Liverpool as he is away on international duty, but it could be very interesting to see where these two teams play out. So very much interested to see to see these two teams play each other. As far as a prediction goes, I can't back against my club, and I think that we may just have the firepower to put Arsenal to bed. So I'm going to say strictly on a firepower based attacking front, I'm going to say Liverpool win this game by 2-1 and progress to round 4 and really hit a nail in the Arsenal coffin. Now that I've probably said that, Arsenal will probably go on to win. But, you know, I want to win this game as much as the next. I want to see Liverpool win every game as much as possible. But I understand there are probably some games that you just can't win. And like I say, I'm saying Liverpool will win this game. But, you know, games like this really could go any which way. And it really does depend as well on how both of these teams take it. If Arsenal wants to take it seriously, in Liverpool, I'd see this as a bit of a rotation game. Fine, fair enough. But we'll see, obviously, how this one plays out on Sunday. I'm still backing my team to go on and win this particular game. Interesting stuff. These are just obviously the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Arsenal versus Liverpool coming up on Sunday in the FA Cup third round? How do you see this game going? Do you see one of these two teams maybe going on and winning the competition? Is this a last resort for Arsenal in terms of silverware for the season? Let me know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to Arsenal versus Liverpool. Arsenal or Liverpool going on to win the FA Cup, or someone else going on to win the FA Cup. Whatever those kind of thoughts are, let me know in the comment section, because I'm sure they'll all make for interesting and great reading as always. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you feel new and want to see more content like this. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Enjoy the FA Cup this weekend. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. I'll speak to you again all very, very soon.